All right. Good morning, everybody. So, this is breaking news just a few hours ago this morning. Elon Musk replied to a tweet confirming that Tesla's full self driving version 12, the end to end neural network version of it, is actually live now. It's now being rolled out to employees. I've got Hans Nelson joining me as well, and we're both doing a co stream on his channel as well on YouTube. Welcome, Hans. Good morning.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
This is going to be a fun one because we've been waiting for this for a long time. Let's set it up nicely here. So this is the fun part, was that actually Elon actually was telling the truth. So Omar, about a couple of weeks ago, November 12th, he sent out this tweet. Hey, Elon and Ashok Alswami or anyone else on the Tesla team, any guess on when customers might first be able to try out for FSD version 12? Elon replied at that time saying about 2 weeks. This is November 12th. So today is November 24th. It's exactly 2 weeks. Many of us discounted this. We all thought it was kind of fake. What's your thought when you saw this, Hans?
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely my interpretation. 2 weeks is just an ongoing meme with Tesla and with Elon Musk in particular. It means any amount of time. It could be 5 days, it could be 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
I mean, so the fact that this time it actually is pretty close to I mean, yeah, 12 days
That's,
later. So within,
I'm not,
striking distance of exactly 14 days on the nose is ridiculous. And so I
my,
just thought it was funny. It seems like he's trolling us. Like he knew this time it was actually going to be two
yeah.
weeks. And so he was waiting and
Well,
he got us all.
unless I mean, some of us wonder whether or not Omar actually gets advance notice to go ahead and tweet this out or something like that. But otherwise, it's kind of like odd that it was exactly 2 weeks. Okay, but
Yeah.
so this morning, not a Tesla app reported this. They said that Tesla's FSD version 12 rolls out to employees with update 2023-38.10. They have access to their app, and they can tell from the app what are being updated to the Tesla app. And so this is the tweet they sent out this morning, 8 o'clock this morning. I don't know if that's, I guess that was my time, which is Pacific time. We've learned through a trusted source that FSD version 12 has started rolling out internally. So they said trusted source is the update is expected to remove beta from the title. The initial rollout to employees appears more limited in scale than previous updates. So I think maybe they're thinking that it's going to be slow going, just a few employees first. They want to make sure that it works sense. It's such an end-to-end solution, a complete rewrite that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not going to read this, but basically, this week is great with the Cybertruck delivery event coming, and then they're expecting a holiday update. So Sawyer tweeted that out, right? He reported that news from not a Tesla app, and Elon replied saying yes. So, wow. So he's confirmed that it's there. So tell me, Hans, why we are so excited about this. Why is this such a big deal?
Well, so we've done episodes on this already, just what a different type of architecture V12 is in comparison to V11. It's end-to-end neural networks. So you get whatever the photons of light that are streaming into the vehicle. Yeah. So this is a stream that Elon did I guess it's probably close to 2 months ago now, where he talked about V12 and demonstrated the capabilities of V12 inside of Tesla because he's got an alpha build. So the fact that they actually have this now and it's able to take in data from the real world, process that entirely through neural networks all the way to the point that it's sending the controls out. That's what it means to have end-to-end inference here. And that's what V12 is. It means that there's no individual little lines of code that have to be adjusted when you get into a weird edge case scenario that says, if this happens, then the computer, the FSD system that's making decisions on how to drive should pursue this specific policy. So they just take in data and lots of it from good drivers, bad drivers, but primarily good drivers. They really want to curate the data set and try and get the best performance out of the system. And they just feed that in. And then that actually trains this neural net on how to drive like a human would drive in that scenario. And so what the way that they have done that is similar to the way that OpenAI has trained the GPT-3, GPT-4, models on text where they'll take a big block of text and then they'll cut out little, a word here or a paragraph here or a sentence there. And then they'll say, hey, system, predict what should go in those blank spots. And then it knows what the right answer is because that piece of text is, it's a whole piece of text to begin with. And so this is something that can be done automatically by the computer without labelers necessarily needing to be involved in this, what's called auto-regressive training. And so they have done something very similar in training V12 on video data, where they're taking in video frames. They have a whole video segment, and they can cut segments out of it and say, hey, predict what the next camera views should look like over whatever period of time. And they can continue to retrain and retrain and retrain on the training data until it figures out all the weights to where it actually predicts the correct video frames. And through that, then they can actually get the system to make not only, if these are the things that you're seeing, what are the control outputs that you need to send to the steering wheel, to the accelerator, to the brake pedal, so that it actually does what the video frames would show. And so it's just a completely different way than FSD has been architected to this point. It is the next change. It is, software 2.0 in the car completely. And what the other implication of that is that we will actually see probably much faster iterations of improvement. Once V12 rolls out wide to the entire North American fleet, and then, potentially even geography by geography as they move it around the globe, we should see a return to very quick iterations of software deployments that are improving that performance. And it's entirely possible. I don't know, I'm not going to say that this is the final nail in the coffin, that we can get to full solution FSD. But we have a lot of performance improvement ahead of us with this architecture that is known, that will solve a lot of the edge cases. And it's possible that this could get us all the way to robotaxi functionality. And so this is the first, this right here, we'll look back at this and it'll be a major inflection point that moves us in that direction. Like I said, it kind of remains to be seen if it'll get us all the way there. Either way, this is a huge monumental achievement for the Tesla team, for real world artificial intelligence functionality. And I'm really excited to see the FSD videos that are going to be shared, on the internet with the rest of us. It's going to be incredible.
Thank you for that. So thank you for doing a whole review of exactly what this is. What's unique about it, right? Because it's neural net driven. What did he say? 95% of the code, even 98%, from 300,000 now to just 3,000?
Yeah, like 3,000 lines of code, I think.
Because the rest is code created by the neural net. This was presented by Asha Kalaswamy, who's in charge of Director Autopilot. And this, let me see here. There we go. This presentation was 4 months ago at the CVPR in 2023. Asha came and he started to present. I don't know. Can you guys see this?
Canadians represent, arbitrary scenes. There is no.
I'm going to get rid of his voice for a second here. But basically, he went and explained this new ability for a kind of a neural network based full self-driving. And it taught itself how to recognize fog. And you can, just like a general world model, you could tell it's all this stuff we're seeing here. It actually figured this out on its own. Like nobody could no code it. Anyways, what's a cool part about this
not only
was that
I was going to say, not only did it teach itself to understand the world around it and the dynamics of real world interactions, it also taught itself how to read signs. They didn't give it, they didn't feed the FSD.
Oh, we just lost you.
Text.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah. We lost you a little bit. Keep going. I think you're there.
I was going to say, it didn't feed in things from an LLM to teach it how to read text. It just learned that in the training data that it already had for driving and the interactions that people have as they encounter road signs, which is, that's an incredible piece of discovery that tells us that these systems are capable of learning more than we would anticipate that they could learn.
Yeah. The reason I'm playing this again is at the end of this presentation, which was 4 months ago, he was asked the question is, when is this going to get into customers' hands? He paused for a long, pregnant pause, and then he said, I think it could be in customers' hand by the end of this year. So even he, Ashok Kalaswamy, was already pretty confident. I mean, this is a developer.
Mm-hmm.
So for the fact that this came out by the end of this year, November 24th, this is a neural net coded. They must feel very confident that it's at least equal to, the version.
Well, this is just rolling out to employees, so it's not in customers' hands yet. So we'll see who, because I think when both he and Phil both said they thought it would be in customers' hands by the end of the year. You and I had a conversation. You were on the side that you thought probably yes, they're correct, and I was on the side no, I think it's going to push into Q1 next year. And so we're really on the line. It could be, I think it would not surprise me. Okay, so one of the things is that a lot of people have been speculating that the Cybertrucks, the initial deliveries of Cybertrucks will ship with V12. And to me, that's what it looks like. But if that's true, what it means also is that Cybertrucks are only going to be delivered to employees at first.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so we're going to have Cybertrucks delivered to employees at the delivery event. They're going to have V12 in them. And then the question is, okay, how long is it only in employees' hands before it actually rolls out to the first customers? And my guess is that their goal is a Christmas release to customers for FSD V12, which would be before the end of the year, and you would win.
Well, okay, interesting, because guess what Martin Viecha just said?
Merry Christmas.
This morning. Yes. Martin Viecha, I'm just going to see if I can share this screen right now, just said this. Let's see, stop sharing, present, share screen. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on.
There it is.
Yeah. So just this morning, Martin Viecha replied back to Sawyer. This is like an hour ago. And he just said, Christmas has come early.
Yep.
So if Christmas has come early, then you're wrong.
Well, it has come early for employees. We'll see. What the general public gets.
Okay. So first of all, okay, this is a big deal because it's a neural net coded FSD. Now the question is, does this mean that it's going to be better than version 11 that we have now? We don't know. We're going to wait.
I'm guessing the reason that it's rolling out to employees first is because it's not yet, but I don't think, most of these, when we get
all
the
versions would have been rolled out to employees first. All versions have always done it this way.
Yes, that's true. But typically when we get a number release, and so instead of a point release, when we go from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12, there is some initial reversion in terms of capability. Like some things will be fixed that were problems before, but then new problems will arise that actually performed well in previous systems. I do expect that for V12, but I don't think it will be long before just the iteration cycle actually solves that and we get back to performing as good as, if not better than, full like the V11 that we have now. And I know that, so Elon has made comments in the past about having that previous system, and especially if you look at something like a Waymo or a Cruise, that they were trying to get an A++ system performance out of a D or C overall architecture. And that what Tesla has been going for is trying to get an A+ architecture that they're working with. And most of the systems that they've had so far are like C performance out of an A architecture. I think that the full neural net, this is finally, even though Elon has kind of said he felt like they had A-level architectures in the past, I think that full end-to-end inference is the final A architecture. And I honestly don't think the previous ones were. I think they were probably B architectures. And so this is the signal of, hey, we have an A, potentially even an A+ architecture. And now it's probably going to roll out with C performance in an A architecture, but then within a year, 2 years, 3 years, we should be getting an A plus architect or an A plus performance in an A plus architecture that will be dramatically better than anything that anyone has seen today.
To what extent is this version, the neural net version, requiring more data? Meaning, let's get as many employees, let's get as many customers, the beta users, to get it out there so that we can feed better data, so that they can find the really good drivers and feed that into to learn from itself. How much more is that important than the version 11 and previous?
So the data pipeline work that they've done has been something that they needed the whole time, and it's been excellent. I think the bottleneck is now compute. I think that it's the training. I think that they have the full ability. They were already rejecting like 95% of the total data that the fleet was generating. So I think their ability to gather and store the data has always been ahead of their ability to utilize that data. So I think that now they may be actually ingesting a larger percentage of the total data that they're generating than they were in the past, but still the data that they are collecting is not the bottleneck, it's the compute. And so this, now that they have, I think that a huge part of this comes on the back of, we know that they finally have their NVIDIA GPU cluster up and running. And I think that was one of the biggest bottlenecks to actually being able to roll out FSD v12.
Okay, so based on what you just said, here's my logic. My logic then is that they have enough data already. And by the way, I think that they can already do this. You and I are driving FSD beta, but we don't have v12, but they have it in the shadow. So they can already test to see if it's going to work or not. So my point is that maybe if they don't need more drivers to use it to be able to learn, then the reason they're rolling it out now must be that it's like even more advanced than we're realizing.
Yes. No, I don't think that you actually need v12 to be in a vehicle in order for that vehicle to collect the data that's necessary to continue to train v12. I think that like I said, the bottleneck is actually the training compute cluster. And I think that's actually true internationally. Like, I think that they can be getting ready to collect the localized data. And this is something that I haven't had conversations with people who are really machine learning experts. I'd love to talk about this with somebody like James and Dr. Know-it-all. But I have the suspicion that they can actually train an FSD foundation model from data in the United States and Europe, and just wherever they have easy access to data. And then they can take that and they can run it through a fine-tuning training pass with localized data for, like, say you wanted, it's going to be necessary definitely for Asian countries, potentially even for various jurisdictions in Europe, to have a very localized version of an end-to-end FSD v12. So for China, for India, maybe Germany needs its own, and there are the countries that do left-hand drive versus right-hand drive. Those are going to actually need to have some differences in those neural nets. I have the suspicion, based on what I understand now, that those types of surface tweaks to the overall model can actually be done with fine-tuning passes on local data with a fraction of the overall. So I don't think they're going to have to go through a full training pass with the cluster that they have in California in order to actually customize those regional specific models. And this is really important for China, because if China doesn't want any of the driving data for China to, and we've had this conversation as well on several of your episodes about how China required Tesla to have their own data center locally, that all of the data that's generated by those vehicles stays in country, in China. It's processed, it's worked on there, and that those software rollouts are then distributed from that Chinese data center. I think that this fine-tuning system would work with inside of that architecture, that they could actually bring in a foundation model for FSD from the United States, and then they could use local data from inside of China with local compute resources that are not necessarily, they're not going to have to build another huge H100 training cluster inside of China in order to do this fine-tuning training pass to actually develop the FSD v12 China version. And I think that will be another huge factor in the speed of how this rolls out, and and the cost of getting it to scale in new geographies.
Yeah, we should report that last week, just last week, we learned that European Tesla owners and even apparently Australian Tesla owners, they now can see the text in the user manual about FSD showing up. And then in China, 3 ministers in China put out a guideline for basically, which includes Tesla and other car companies, to be able to do something similar to what we're doing now, which is, testing out full self-driving. So the signs are pointing that they're going to roll this out. We've got a number of new audience members. So I'm going to go ahead and just very quickly give an update on why we're here and what we're talking about here. So basically, this morning, what happened here? Sorry, I thought I was sharing the right screen and I wasn't. This morning, so we just learned that version 12, Tesla's FSD version 12, which is the most advanced neural network full self-driving technology, looked like that it's starting to roll out to employees, because there was an update 2023.3.1 and not a Tesla app reported this. And they said that through a trusted source, the FSD version 12 has started rolling out internally to the employees. Elon Sawyer Merritt tweeted this out following not a Tesla app reporting that. And then Elon said yes. So this is 2 weeks ago, when Omar from Homars at November 12th asked Elon any guess on when customers might be able to first try out FSD 12. And Elon said about 2 weeks. Now, what we know is that this is employees only. I don't know where people are saying that it's actually going to be a much slower rollout. I think when not a Tesla app, the first time it's rolled out, I think they might have said that usually it's a lot bigger group of employees, and they're saying maybe it's just a small group right now. Maybe that's an indication that it's going to be a slower rollout. But the fact that they're rolling out this version, we just talked about that it's not like you need more users to be able to train it better. So this must mean that it's good enough, at least equal to, maybe just a little bit below, but not terribly bad compared to FSD 11. Otherwise, they would not feel comfortable rolling this out now. That's our discussion. There's a question here. What do you think about the beta label? Because Elon did say a month or so ago that FSD version 12 won't have the beta label. Omar said that's just a label. It means nothing. There's nothing. That's no point. What's your opinion on that?
I would be surprised if they drop the beta label immediately. If it was me, I would keep the beta label included until the data said that the performance without human interventions was up to par. But I could definitely see V12 reaching that proven level of performance and having the miles necessary to say, yes, absolutely, this system is as good, if not better than a human, and at which point they could drop the beta label and still have it be in a V12 version. So I think that that's very, very possible.
Okay. So it wasn't exactly 2 weeks. You're right. It's 12 days from November 12th. That's correct. Which is weird, right? Because it's crazy that Elon actually the very first time
and he said about
when he said 2 weeks, he said about, but he actually, like he said, he knew that they were planning to do this, of course. Otherwise, I mean, we can't trust anything he says about 2 weeks. But so to that, you're right. So this part here, I'll show this. Great comment, William. Does V12 solve self-parking and summon? We don't know yet if it has smart summon and smart reverse summon. That's when if you drop the car off at a Target or Walmart, that it'll be able to find its own parking, or that if you come out of the lobby and you call your car and it'll come get you. We're all waiting for that. But when we saw that video, this video of Elon testing it out, the one thing that a lot of people told me that was the most important part about this particular video was, okay, well done. That's obviously us talking about it, was this part when he arrived at Mark Zuckerberg's house, or supposedly, you know, the location where Mark Zuckerberg looks. I won't be able to find exactly where it is. And the car itself knew how to park. Like it just, they didn't code it or anything. It was driving on a street. It arrived at its destination. It knew to go and find a parking in that area. FSD 12 has never done that before. This thing taught itself how to do that just by watching videos of other people doing this. This was an example of some new, I don't know, do you want to call it emergent behavior, a behavior that the system learned on its own without anybody telling it to do that. And it was shocking to all of us that it did it. I think even Elon and Ashok was they had a little gasp, but it did that.
Yeah. And they, Elon also talked about having actual smart summon quite a bit on that live stream, which is, you know, that functionality. And so that is, you know, the hope that it will be able to do all of those things. It's something that they definitely need to have in order for V12 to really fulfill all of the design goals of FSD. So, and then there was a question earlier from Misdemeanor about will V12 be able to get through a roundabout? And we saw great roundabout performance on the V12 live stream that Elon did as well, I think when he was on the Stanford campus. And so hopefully the answer to that question is actually yes, and that we'll see really good behavior there as well.
Okay, yep. Thank you for pointing that out. So Elon just tweeted out a reply several minutes ago. Let's take a quick look at what he said here. Oops, sorry, here goes. Omar, 42 minutes ago, said FSD version 12, this could be the moment that changes everything. Or it could suck, even worse than version 11. Elon says, it feels human. What do you take on that? That's hilarious, Omar. Love it. Oh, sorry. You didn't see it. You didn't see it. I'm sorry. Here you go.
What I was going to say is that I think that was also, you know, it reflects commentary that he had in the live. I think that everyone who's on this stream should go back and rewatch now today what the live stream of V12 was several months ago to get a feel for the context of how Elon felt about it at the time and what he's expecting to see. Like whatever it is today should be significantly better even than that performance. And I mean, that was really incredible. Other than the one time when the left turn arrow turned green and Elon's car was in the straight lane, and the car thought that the left turn lane light was for it and started to go forward a little bit, and then Elon intervened, which honestly, you know, that's a mistake that lots of people have made. I've made that mistake before and had to catch it as well. I think that that's something that's not uncommon for human drivers to do, and so it's not surprising that that is a bug that is in the training data that they just have to be very explicit about, you know, doing some retraining and some refinement passes to remove that. So, but other than that, he did say that the performance of the whole system was very human-like. The whole, like the smoothness that it drove with, and the way that it decided to pick lanes. And there was a great section where it went around a bicyclist just like a human would. A number of the scenarios were just very, very natural, intuitive feeling decisions by the car. And that's going to be huge for humans to feel comfortable with it, is to actually have it drive the way that, not just be able to drive and drive safely, but to be able to drive safely in the way that a human would drive safely, so that it feels like you understand it and you can have confidence in it.
Yeah, and he kept repeating in that video over and over again, nobody coded this. We did not code this. No human coded this. This neural net, this brain, figured it out on its own by watching humans. And this person tweeted this out, or said this now, Johnny, which is correct. Did I hear they use 5-star Uber drivers info for training? That's not what they do. What they did was, all of us FSD beta drivers are testing the system, and we have tremendous amount of data, right? Just like other car companies have tremendous amount of data. But because we have so much data, more than anyone else does, what they want to train the neural net on is only the best drivers. And so they actually go and curate only the best Uber drivers who are very similar to an Uber driver who can get 5 stars. They take all that data, and that's what they teach this. And so this system watches the best drivers and it learns. And so when you said, oh, there's a bicyclist and it knows how to go around it, or how long do you wait before you, like, let's say the green light turns on. I don't drive right away, right? I don't pump it. I wait about 2 seconds and then I slowly move and make sure the cross traffic is gone. Then I go. It learns this by itself by watching the best behavior. And so they just needed to feed it more of that kind of behavior for it to basically start mimicking and learning. How do the best drivers drive?
Well, and they know who the best drivers are based on the safety score system that they have for Tesla insurance. And, there's been a lot of speculation. I think that James Down was one of the ones that I first heard talking about this, that the product that actually they began using for Tesla insurance to rate drivers actually started inside of FSD Autopilot, that was a system that had been used internally to rank and score drivers, to curate whose data gets used to perform the training. And they're like, hey, this is actually a really useful way to rank drivers and their ability to drive safely. And we can actually incorporate that into our insurance product to help us, do a lot of the pricing necessary there on that end as well. But you can definitely see a very tight correlation between their ability to have that driver score. And so when they're saying, we use the drivers who could get 5 stars if they were driving for Uber, it's their safety score that they're using as the scoreboard to decide who those people are.
Yeah. Well, I think what somebody explained it to me, which is a really nice way to do it, is that the way that our laws work and police will give you a ticket is based on if you're driving faster than the speed limit, or if you don't stop at a stop sign, those kind of things you get tickets for. That's because that's the things that a police officer can spot and then charge you for. But those things actually have no correlation to safety. It doesn't mean that the societies that there's more accidents. And Tesla's safety score is based on the things that are most unsafest. So that's the how fast you're driving, how quickly you have to stop every time you get to some place. And then your turn, when you're making your turn, how fast are you taking that turn? Those are examples of things that they've correlated with higher, most unsafe driving. And that's what they're giving you the safety scores based on those things as an example. So what do you think? Is this, based on Omar's catalog, he says, is this could either be the biggest thing ever, right? Because this is the ChatGPT moment, or it could be worse than version 11. And,
I think it's going to be both, honestly.
It could be a risk though, right, Hans? I mean, it could be a real risk because it's like a brand. This is the first neural net. Do you think that it is a brand? That if it comes out and we all go, oh crap, it's worse than version 11, there's this stigma? Or do you think that, no, it will get better and then people will change their minds anyways?
I think that is a risk. And I think that's the exact reason that they do this progressive rollout strategy, where first it's a small group of employees and then a larger group of employees and then early access beta testers and then wide to the beta fleet, is so that they can catch that type of performance early and make sure that they get it fixed before it gets in the hands of too many people, both for safety reasons, but also for just customer experience. Like, you don't want to be giving a product that is, in honesty, much worse than a previous version of the product to a lot of people. If it's marginally a little bit worse at first, that's one thing. But if it's a lot worse, that's a completely different story, and they don't want that to happen. I do expect that there's, what we're going to see is, as it rolls out, there are going to be areas of massive improvement where it's just way better at some things that it was terrible at it before. But then there's going to be new things where it's not going to be as good as it was before. And those things are going to be picked up by the Dan O'Dowds and the mainstream media. And there's going to be a lot of FUD about this system is the worst full self-driving system in the history of full self-driving systems. And so there's going to be a lot of noise around it. But like I said earlier, I think the architecture is the perfect architecture. Whatever lack of performance that it has as it rolls out is just part of the learning process. That stuff will get fixed. It will very soon not only be better than V11, but significantly better than V11. And that a year or two from now, like, the people that are inside and have confidence and understand what's going on, we know that this system is going to be better. And so we're not going to be bothered by the noise. And so we can recognize that that is where the system is headed today. But the vast majority of other people 2 years from now will not have the same negative understanding and opinion of FSD that they're probably going to have in the short term, just because they have no context. They don't drive a Tesla. They don't understand what full self-driving is. The only thing that they know about it is what they hear from mainstream media. And there's going to be noise that's all attached to this, because this piece of software is extremely disruptive. And it means that a lot of companies are not going to have viable business strategy moving forward. And so they are going to fight this tooth and nail.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to ask you a question about this, the tweet that Elon just sent out 30 minutes ago, when he said it feels more human. So Omar is saying, is this could be the moment, this could become the moment, change everything, or it could suck worse than version 11. But his answer was, it feels more human. Maybe you can tell me what you think about that comment, that, if FSD version 12 is more human. Now, he didn't, I'm going to go, while you're talking, I'm going to go search, because I believe that within a week ago, he did answer something about his comment about safety. So let me find that. But tell me what you think about, if it's more human, is that going to be more of that moment when humans themselves will go, oh my God, this car is really, ready?
I think for the people that are experiencing it, yes, absolutely. And I think that's one of the main critiques so far. People like Farzad, who drives it, he's like, I love, the system is safe, but it doesn't feel human. And so it's harder to trust it. And so that feeling of it making those decisions like a human would is part and parcel with the trust. And so I think that that's, like you said, people who are going to experience it is going to be that moment for them. They're like, wow, this system really does what I think it should do in this scenario. But for people who are not experiencing it, who are just hearing about it secondhand, that's not necessarily going to be the case.
Okay, so I found a tweet, so let's go ahead and look at it. So this looks like it was just sent, what is it now, November 20th. So that's like, oh my God, it was just 4 days ago? No, wait.
22nd, so 2 days ago.
That's just 2 days ago. The time's flying so fast. And he said this: supervised FSD is vastly safer than human. This is when you and I are using FSD beta and we're supervising it while it's driving. That is already proven to be vastly safer than human. Unsupervised FSD is trending well. So, you know what I mean? He didn't quite say it's already 5 times safer than human, or 2 times, or 10. He just said trending well. Over time, version 12 end-to-end neural net will far succeed human safety, even when unsupervised. So it sounds like it's not quite there. And then this is just a similar tweet using the same word, safer, which is August. He said it will be much safer than humans. That's guaranteed. It's just when. Mm-hmm. When will this be? And let's just take a look closer to what he was actually replying to. So he was replying to Tasha, talking about Cruise, how they imploded. And it looks like that the company took on more risk than peers like Waymo, because this is the number of crashes adjusted million miles. That's
why they had to have 1.5 drivers per car.
And then Sven said, am I right concluding that FSD is more than 20 times safer than the average 20 to 21 human driver, which is greater than the goal of 10 times safer? He did not say yes, but he just said supervised FSD is vastly safer. Unsupervised is trending well. So, when I read that, I felt like, okay, well, it means that we're not there. If it was already safer, he would have said so, but we're trending in that right direction.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard data to collect as long as humans are allowed to intervene. And so, yeah, trying to get billions of miles of real world data with no human interventions, that's going to be fun. We'll see what their strategy is on how they're going to do that. And the liability comes in there. It's going to be an exciting, probably volatile road.
I think this is fair to say, though. Okay, so they've they looks like that they've just what they were announcing today. Breaking news is that Elon did confirm that FSD version 12 is now in the hands of employees, and it could be a slow rollout, but it's a big deal because let's say it is worse than a version 11, and it still takes months. But we do know that this version, because it's neural net, it is going to learn faster than humans coding every edge case. That we don't need to do that anymore, which is what version 11 and previous had to do. Every time they discover a new edge case, humans, they would feed it that video of that edge case, and then humans would go and label it, and they would go and figure out how to code it. At that point, they just feed it as much videos as possible of really good drivers, curated video of people that their best drivers, and then they just increase the compute so they can increase more of those videos. And then the more it gets it, it just teaches itself every different edge case. And then if they did find an edge case, at one point in that video, Elon said, oh, the car drove straight when it was a green light to the left. We just need to feed it video of that more. And Ashok said, no, we don't. It will just feed it more drivers and it'll figure that out on its own. Anyways, either case. So this is going to learn faster than anyway. So even if it's a little bit below version 11, we're now at the point where more compute turns on in January. Didn't they say by January there'll be even more compute that they're going to turn on?
Exactly. And that was the next point that I was going to make as well, is that remember that they're continuing to build out a larger and larger training compute cluster. And so they'll be able to retrain faster and faster the further into 2024 and into 2025 that we get, because they have more compute resources at their disposal. They also have more data. There's more cars on the road. As they continue to roll out V12, both in, it's hard to say how much shadow mode data that they have. That will be definitely part of the training scheme for V12, is to have it in shadow, and potentially that could be one way that they could even get intervention data. Is how well does V12 mimic human drivers who don't have FSD, who are safe drivers? Does it make the same decisions that humans make who are not actually operating on FSD? That would be a very valuable piece of data and resource that Tesla actually has full access to that other companies don't.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's go and move on, but I appreciate everybody. This was breaking news, and thank you so much, Hans, for jumping on. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.